Hello, Abigail here with the astrology for this week. Just a little PSA and a little context setting before we get into this week. This week has a kind of condensed center to it that involves Mercury, the Sun, the South Node. That's very important, but context is everything. So, just a reminder we are in the eclipse portal because we are coming straight off on Sunday on that full moon Pisces eclipse, which is a lunar eclipse. So we are officially in the 2 weeks between eclipses. Fun fact, this is where things get distorted and sped up and time doesn't feel real. I kind of sometimes tell my clients it's like starting at point A and ending up at point J and just wondering how it all happened and how this occurred. So just know that we're continuing this feeling. We could argue that we kind of started this energy back with that new moon that was non-eclipse. And I do think we did, but now we're in the thick of it. I will say if you have been doing a lot of the work and the suffering up until now, I don't think this is necessarily going to be easier, but it's going to be clearer. So, bright side if you've been doing those things. Also, just a reminder, we're not going to know what is happening until the end of this. It's really hard right now. Anytime you're in eclipse season as a tarot reader, it's a great time for a tarot reading, but it's also not going to be yes or no questions. You're going to be picking paths. What I often do when there's a choice is I don't do yes or no. I do which one would you prefer. And it's very true for this eclipse season if you are doing readings to do a path maybe versus doing yes and no questions. Stay and go, this job or that job. It really helps open up to the possibilities of what things can bring in. And it also helps you be a little more flexible with the fact that your clients and yourself and the people around you are all making karmic choices. And when you hit a karmic crossroads, there are two vastly different things that could happen. And it's less about what is going to happen and the choice that you make. So just know that your choices are important, but don't freak out about them. And when I say choices, I don't mean this grand scheme plan that you're choosing. I mean the little steps, especially in Virgo season, the little steps that you take. So just put one foot in front of the other. The universe is going to do the majority of the work, whether we like it or not. So my encouragement is to do what you can do moment by moment, day by day, releasing, and I know it's really hard. I'm struggling with this too, releasing the need to control and to know is an eclipse thing, especially with the North Node in Pisces. We have no idea. So just be aware, also recognizing that Saturn is now in Pisces, and while they're never going to come close again, that final eclipse is opposing Saturn at 28 degrees, that eclipse is at 29 degrees. So it's a lot. Also, a lot of astrologers, myself included, are kind of seeing October as also a little, testy and zesty. I will say on the bright side, we will have Mars in domicile. Thank God. It moves the very, very edge of Libra season. The few hours before Libra season, Mars goes into there. And then eventually we will have Mercury in an air sign, not domicile or exalted, but in an air sign, which is nice. And a Venus, not during Virgo season, but once we enter into October, is going to be in domicile. So while the energy continues to be rough, pretty much to the end of the year because of all of the major planetary retrogrades, we are going to have some nice interpersonal support. So hang on to that. Looking into the future, like, Abigail, why are you saying this? Because there's actually not too much to talk about this week, and I think all of us could use a grounding pep talk. And by grounding, I mean not exactly hopeful, but with some options. But yeah, just living day to day, recognizing that while your feelings in the moment are valid, they're not how you're going to feel forever. And this is something I'm actively reminding myself. And know that this eclipse, especially with the fact that it's falling right in between all of these massive planet transitions, we have we have Saturn entering back into Pisces, Neptune will enter back into Pisces, Uranus is going to station retrograde soon and head back towards Taurus. All of these things are happening and they're not going to clear up till, spring of next year. So just a little bit of doom and gloom, but also a little bit of hope, knowing that you don't need to figure it out right now. And you're not going to, so that's okay. All right, so starting off this week, we start off on Wednesday, recognizing that we are in the eclipse portal. So stuff's going to be happening all the time. But on Wednesday, we get the sun conjunct the south node. The south node is a place of echoes and the past and the things we've already done. It's also a place where past lives live and things that we have repeatedly approached. It's when patterns and cycles are magnified. And sometimes those patterns and cycles can make us very good at something. It's not a completely bad thing, but a lot of these things are on their way out. So it is a place of loss in some ways where you recognize that you have passed a certain benchmark and there's no going back. If you've ever picked up a hobby or a skill set, there is a point at which if you pursue something long enough, you become a professional. And while you can still engage with it as an amateur, there's a level of knowledge that you have that there's no coming back from. And it's not good and it's not bad, but it is different and it is a graduation to a different phase of life. It's like going from being a child and having all of these kind of fixed ideas that maybe you have about parents and families or just stuff that you've been told and you're like, well, I guess it's true. And then you kind of reach a certain level of adulthood or you pass a certain benchmark in your childhood and you start to realize that things are not set in stone. And when the sun is conjunct the south node, it is that moment of recognition, that moment of being like, oh, that thing's done and these things are passing away and I've already been that. I've already done this. And yeah, you can choose to remain doing these cycles and continuing these patterns, but you don't have to. And you can choose to do new things and to become a child again in a certain way, in a pattern or a cycle. But it's hard because you have to kind of let go of the mastery of something in order to take on something that is ambiguous and new and frightening, maybe, which is very North Node in Pisces, by the way. So just know that this is a day of recognition. This is also a day of nostalgia. We're going to be feeling really nostalgic. A lot of memories from childhood might be cropping up. This also might be a triggering day. So just be aware of that and, of all the things that are happening. Uh, Also, I think another important point is that if you are interested in past life work, this is going to be bringing that to the forefront. If you've ever done a past life rectification, it's very much that vibe of kind of going back through space and time to find answers. And sometimes the answers aren't fun, and sometimes they're hard to digest and understand. But we are in Virgo, so ruler of digestion. So just know that this is kind of the vibe of the week. It also might feel a bit regressive, as though some of the progress that you made around the eclipse isn't really sticking. It might feel as though things are slipping through your fingers that you thought were finally settling in. That's okay. They may or may not be. I don't know your story, so I can't tell you exactly, but they're not slipping through your fingers for nothing. And it's more about you allowing them to exist as they are, whether that is something that is passing away or something that's transforming, than about kind of getting a handle on it. You're not going to get a handle on it. It's eclipse season. But yeah, a lot of grief, a lot of, watching things pass by, a lot of this is kind of the point in eclipse season where if you're struggling with someone, you're going to kind of recognize their capacity in this moment. And maybe they're capable of the stuff that you wish they were, and maybe they're not. And, for some of us, maybe this is a harmful person, but for those of us who this is a more complicated relationship than that, where harm isn't being technically committed intentionally, or it's kind of happening as a result of maybe conflicting personalities or natures, it is a time of seeing that. And maybe for some of us, that is a recognition that this person, while they have their flaws, is capable of being the person we need them to be, whether this is a parent or a lover or a partner or a child, even, which don't put too much pressure on kids, please. um, but we will see them for who they are, or at least for what they are capable of in the context of us. And that can be really hard because it can make us feel like we are too much, especially if you have a history of feeling like you're too much. And it'll make people who have a history of feeling like they're too little, like they're too little. And then the very next day, on Thursday, Mercury is hot on our tails and it goes into conjunction with that south node. On the bright side, this is going to allow us to express and really process everything that happened on Wednesday. It will feel like a lot. It's going to feel hard. And it might be a lot to take in and a lot to handle. And for some of us, it's going to be deeply freeing, and for some of us, it's going to be deeply saddening. I will say, down the road, looking back, I think it's going to be freeing for all of us. But just know in the moment, it's more complicated than, yay, now I know, because sometimes when we know, we have to grieve and we have to see things for what they truly are. Um, I will also say don't rush to take action. The universe is going to push you to action anyways. Sit with this as much as you can, and when the universe gives you the little shove, then take that step. And then the really lovely, nice thing, which is still happening within 2 degrees of our lovely South Node moment, is the Mercury Cazimi, which is why I say don't rush quite yet when we're talking about, what you need to do and the stuff that you discover on Wednesday and Thursday, because that Kazemi is going to bring it all together and is going to give you a sense of clarity and focus and understanding of things that may have felt a lot more complicated or at least difficult to move through earlier in the week. So yeah, we're building towards this Kazemi all week. And there, especially what happens is Mercury is going to be firstly, already it's under the sun's rays, but it'll be something called combust, which is when it's within, more than 1 degree of the sun. And it makes things really unclear, which is kind of why when you have those Mercury Cazimi days, it does feel like an island in the middle of the fog because on either side, Mercury is getting blurred out by the power of the sun. And so a lot of kind of that vitality kind of covers up the logic and the processing and the functional aspects of Mercury. So do not feel pressured to do anything crazy. That final eclipse in Virgo is going to be that push in the very least. So take your time to process stuff, unless you're in an unsafe situation. Obviously, do what you need to do if something is absolutely not safe for you. I'm talking more of like, if you don't know what to do, wait for Saturday and then let what you figure out on Saturday percolate a little bit as we head towards that final eclipse that next week. And that is the astrology of this week. It is, Kazimis are really wonderful and beautiful, but it isn't easy. And that's kind of what I want to hit home. For some people, it is going to be the key that they need because eclipses don't happen like on this eclipse you're going to get that, and on that eclipse you're going to get this. Some people have eclipse moments before the eclipses. Some people have a bunch of mini to massive eclipse moments all the way through it. That's how I feel like mine's going. We don't know because we're not in the portal yet. I'm recording this a few days before the first eclipse, just so you know where we're at. And for some people, there is a pivotal point where it changes and stuff starts to move and starts to feel better before the final eclipse. The only reason I feel like it might not be that way is at 29 degrees, there's a secret that's going to pop out, especially opposing Saturn. There's going to be some kind of final event, either right before or right after the 21st. Sometimes it happens on it. Usually, I find it's on the build up or the build down. Anyways, my dears, that is the astrology for this week. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I want to recognize that a lot of us are struggling. And if you're not, I'm glad to hear it because it is not fun. But just know that we are continuing through this eclipse portal. I am here for you. If you want a reading for support, I am offering a discounted eclipse astrology reading up until that final eclipse. You can go find it on my Instagram and you can DM me. Anyways, if you like any of my stuff, please like and subscribe, and you can ask me any questions in the comments, or you can also DM me on Instagram. Anyways, my loves, let's all take a collective deep breath, release it, and we've got this together, and we will find our way through it. And the universe, even though it doesn't quite feel like it right now, has something better for us on the other side.